Never give up.
Everyone wants success. Not just success, fast success. We live in a world that promises quick results. Build $1 million business in a year. Become fluent in English in 30 days. Transform your body in 12 weeks. Speed is attractive because speed makes success feel possible. But there is a quiet truth most people never talk about. Real success rarely happens quickly. It grows slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about a man who failed so many times that even he started to believe success simply wasn't meant for him. Until one conversation changed everything. In a coastal city where fishing boats filled the harbor and most people lived simple, predictable lives, there was a young man named Daniel Park. Daniel was 28 years old. He wasn't poor. His parents owned a small grocery store in a busy neighborhood. The store had supported the family for years. It wasn't exciting, but it was stable. Daniel went to college. He graduated with a degree in business. Most people expected him to return to the grocery store and continue the family business. But Daniel wanted something different. He didn't want a small, predictable life. He wanted to build something of his own, something bigger, something that proved he was capable of more. So at 23, Daniel launched his first business, a small online store selling fitness equipment. He spent months building the website. He designed the logo. He imagined customers placing orders from around the country, but reality arrived quickly. After 9 months, the store had made only 12 sales. Daniel closed the business. He lost nearly $10,000. His father told him gently, "You can always work with me at the grocery store." But Daniel wasn't ready to give up. At 24, he tried again. This time, it was a coffee delivery service for offices. He rented a small kitchen, bought equipment, hired a friend to help. 6 months later, the business collapsed. Not enough customers, too many expenses, another $12,000 gone. People started noticing. At 25, Daniel opened a small clothing brand online. It lasted 7 months, failed. At 26, he launched a mobile app for restaurant reservations, failed. At 27, he started a small digital marketing agency. For a few weeks, it looked promising. Then clients disappeared. Within months, the company closed. 5 businesses, 5 failures. The whispers around town began. That's Daniel, the guy who keeps failing. Another business already. His college friends had stable jobs now. Some bought houses, some got married, some drove new cars. Daniel avoided their messages. He didn't want to explain his life anymore. At night, he lay awake in his small apartment, asking himself the same question again and again. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm just not meant to succeed. Eventually, the money ran out. Credit cards were full. Savings were gone. Daniel had no choice but to move back into his parents' home. For the first time in his life, he felt truly lost. One evening, he sat alone on the small balcony outside his childhood bedroom. The city lights flickered in the distance. He looked at his hands and whispered quietly, "One last try. If I fail again, I'll stop. I'll accept that I'm not built for this." But if he tried again, he knew one thing had to change. He couldn't keep repeating the same mistakes. The next morning, Daniel took a temporary job washing dishes at a small restaurant near the harbor. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to survive. Every night he watched customers sitting at tables, business owners, investors, entrepreneurs discussing ideas and deals. Daniel listened carefully while cleaning plates. One evening, an older man who visited the restaurant often noticed him. The man's name was Mr. Harrison. He was in his 60s, quiet, calm, and known in the city as someone who had built several successful companies. That night, after Daniel cleared the table, Mr. Harrison looked up and asked, "You studied business, didn't you, Daniel?" Looked surprised. "Yes," Then why are you washing dishes? Daniel hesitated. Then he answered honestly. I tried building companies. They all failed. How many? The old man asked. Daniel sighed. 5. Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair and smiled. 5. You sound disappointed. Daniel laughed bitterly. Shouldn't I be? Mr. Harrison shook his head slowly. When I was young, my first 10 businesses failed. Daniel blinked. 10? Yes. I lost everything more than once. Daniel stared at him. It was hard to imagine that the calm, successful man sitting in front of him had once failed so many times. So what changed? Daniel asked. Mr. Harrison pointed toward the harbor outside the window. Do you see those boats? Daniel nodded. They don't leave the harbor randomly, Mr. Harrison said. They study the weather, they understand the tides, they prepare before sailing. Then he looked back at Daniel. Most entrepreneurs don't fail because they're stupid. They fail because they start sailing before understanding the ocean. Daniel felt something shift in his mind. Mr. Harrison continued. If you're serious about trying again, meet me here tomorrow morning at 6. I'll show you 3 things most people learn far too late. The next morning, Daniel arrived before sunrise. The harbor was quiet. Mr. Harrison sat at a small table with a notebook. He drew 3 simple circles. 3 lessons, he said. First, he wrote 1 sentence. Preparation before passion. You jumped into ideas too quickly. You were excited, but you didn't understand the market. Before your next business, spend 3 months studying the industry. No selling, no launching, just learning. Daniel wrote every word carefully. Mr. Harrison continued. Second, he wrote a large number, 18 months. If you start something expecting success in 6 months, you'll quit when it gets hard. Real businesses take time. Commit to 18 months before you even begin. Daniel swallowed. 18 months felt long, but it also felt realistic. Then Mr. Harrison wrote the 3rd lesson. Focus. You tried to do too many things. Successful businesses usually do one thing extremely well. Choose one service, one market, and become the best at it. Daniel looked at the notebook. 3 simple ideas. Yet they felt more powerful than anything he had learned before. Mr. Harrison closed the notebook. If you follow these 3 rules, your next attempt will not look like the previous 5. For 3 months, Daniel did nothing but study. He researched industries. He analyzed competitors. He interviewed small business owners. Eventually, he noticed something interesting. Local dental clinics struggled to attract new patients online. Most of them didn't understand digital advertising. So, Daniel focused on one service. Online marketing specifically for dental clinics. Nothing else. No websites, no social media management, just patient lead generation. 3 months later, he launched his business. His first client paid $400 per month. Month 2 brought another client. Month 5, he lost 1 client. For a moment, the old fear returned. But Daniel remembered the commitment. 18 months. So he continued. Month 9, 5 clients. Month 12, 10 clients. Month 15, 20 clients. Daniel hired his first employee. At month 18, his company generated more than $30,000 per month. 3 years later, the business had grown far beyond what Daniel once believed possible. But the most important change wasn't the money. It was how Daniel understood failure. Years later, when someone asked him what the difference between success and failure really was, Daniel answered simply, "Success is rarely about talent. It isn't about luck. It's about learning faster than you quit." And he smiled before adding one final thought. Most people stop after the 5th attempt, but sometimes the 6th attempt is the one that changes everything. If this story made you think, remember this: failure is not the opposite of success. It is the training ground for it. And sometimes, the only difference between the people who succeed and the people who don't is that one group decides to try one more time.